Hi, good morning, and welcome to the Florida Keys History and Discovery Center. I'm Brad Bertelli, the curator here at the facility, and we're back for more Discover History for our Tuesday morning, what's become a Tuesday morning ritual, I guess, here at the facility. So today we're going to talk about some early resorts and hotels on Upper Matecumbe Key, and we'll talk about before the 1935 hurricane came and kind of wiped the slate clean and destroyed much of what was here. If you have questions, Erin is manning the Facebook page, so we can ask those questions live while we're here on Facebook. Otherwise, I'll get back to them later on in the afternoon. And surprisingly, you know, when Islamorada first became a town site, this was about 1906, there was an ad in a newspaper that was released, or an announcement in the newspaper in 1907 that talks about a new town site of Islamorada and how it's going to be an excellent place for fishing and an important hospitality destination. And truer words could not have been spoken, even back in those early days in 1907. Because the area did have an early reputation for fishing, and the fishing brought people who wanted to experience some of the great weather and the beautiful water and the amazing fishing that it's always had its name for. They call it the sport fishing capital of the world here in Islamorada for a reason, because there are just so many species that are able to catch, whether you're out in the Atlantic on the front side or back in Florida Bay on the back side. Just such a myriad of species that are available on any day. It's not everywhere that you can go and catch a snook or a tarpon or a bonefish back in the backcountry and then take your boat out to the reef line and catch a sailfish and dolphin or tuna in the same day. It just doesn't happen in a lot of areas. So this place Islamorada and the Florida Keys really began to grow as a tourist destination pretty early on in its history. And while the railroad didn't do a great deal to bring tourism to the Florida Keys, especially the Upper Keys, even though there was railroad service as early as 1908, daily railroad service here in the Upper Keys. Once the road was implemented and it opened up to public in 1928, and was really open a little earlier than that, it was a pretty convenient drive, not to Key West necessarily, but here to the Upper Keys, where you could get in your car in Miami and drive all the way down on a complete road system to this area here on Upper Matecumbe Key. And because of that, there were several resorts and hotels began to develop. One of the earliest public ones would be the Russell Arms, which was built about 1925, 1926 by a couple of brothers by the last name of Russell, no relation to the Upper Matecumbe Russells. They were from Key West and opened up the Russell Arms. And in 1927, there's a newspaper article or announcement talking about the rates, the daily rates. $5.50 a day in 1927 was the daily rate. I was looking up what would that be today. Pretty reasonable for today's prices. It'd be about $85 a night. Which is in Islamorada, it's tough to find a hotel room for $85 a night. There are a couple places out there that you can. Most of them are significantly more expensive, and there were a couple of those types of resorts also were created in the early 1930s. The Russell Arms was located across from what's today Morada Bay. It's just down the road from the Florida Keys Brewing Company and next to the Moose Lodge. And that of course was sold in 1931 to Ed and Fern Butters for about $80,000, which is a pretty good amount for the days of the Depression. But that became really the first roadside big hotel here in this area. There were a couple of private hotels, resorts as well. There was the Matecumbe Club, which was built by a couple of members of the New York Cotton Exchange. and the building was, the club was built about 1919 down on the beach at the end of Johnson Road. Interesting thing about the Johnson Road, Johnson was one of the founding members of the club, and depending on which part of the road, and this is next to Cayo, kind of right between Cayo Restaurant and the Florida Keys Memorial, the Hurricane Monument, and depending on which road sign you look at, it's either Johnson with no T or Johnston with a T, depending on, it has a couple different variations of that name as it gets closer to the beach. But the club opened in the early 1920s. One of our local favorites, Preston Pinder, would be the fishing guide at the club. His son, Bertram Pinder, would be the caretaker for the club for many years. And then there was also just down the road George Merrick, who was a wealthy industrialist, industrialist I think is the wrong word. We're looking developer. Thank you very much. That's the word I'm looking for. Early developer. He developed the Miami Coconut Grove up in Miami, or I'm sorry, Coral Gables up in Miami. But he also had some property down here on Upper Matecumbe Key, and he created in the early 1930s the Caribbean Colony, and this would be kind of where, about mile marker 81.5, where La Siesta Resort is today, a Limbach's La Siesta Resort. And because of Merrick, his position in the Miami area, there was a special train, the South Sea Special, that would run from Miami and drop the people off almost at the front door of the Caribbean Colony, of the resort. And it was a 12 building kind of resort out on the beach with standard fare, rooms out on the beach that were elevated with attendants dressed in white and black tuxedo jackets. And they had a really interesting restaurant sign out on the beach, or out on the road. It was where they were saying, you enjoy the conch and the stone crab and the crawfish, and you can pick out your own crawfish from the tank. They were also advertising coconut ice cream and lime pie. This is pre-hurricane. This is the early 1930s, where lime pie, world famous lime pie, which is of course key lime pie in those days. Lime pie was just lime without the key. Still the wonderfully famous tart dessert that would become famous here in the Florida Keys. But as early as the 1930s, this was already the dessert that was being pushed and was really began to exemplify Florida Keys home cooking. Crawfish and lime pie. They would also eat bonefish back in those days, which is interesting. A great sport fish today. One of the old fishing legends, Jimmy Albright, would talk about people. He would talk about eating bonefish, and he would dump a bunch of ketchup on it to make it taste better, which I thought is kind of horrific to think about these days. I can't imagine going to a restaurant, ordering a nice fish dinner, and then dumping ketchup on it. But to each his own, I imagine. So there were several of these resorts and hotels that began to develop here on Upper Matecumbe Key. There was two kind of areas. There was the Alamorada area and then the Matecumbe area, which we've talked about previously. And that would kind of correspond to the two train depots that were located on the island. The Alamorada depot, which would have been today kind of in front of where the Alamorada post office is, and then the Matecumbe train depot, which would have been right in front of where the Russell Arms, which the Butters would buy and become the Hotel Matecumbe or Matecumbe Hotel, depending on which side of the building you looked at. That's another interesting building that was, the moniker out front, it said Matecumbe Hotel, but on the side of it said Hotel Matecumbe, so I'm never sure which is the accurate way to talk about that hotel, which is why I constantly always say the Hotel Matecumbe, the Matecumbe Hotel, depending on which side of the building you're standing on. And so those are some of the early hotels and resorts that were here on the island. I would love for you to tune in tomorrow night. We're doing one of our virtual presentations. It's the Curator Connections that we're doing, where I'll be talking, doing a webinar for our Community Views section, and I'll be talking about kind of the same material with a lot of pictures of pre-1935 Upper Matecumbe Key, and showing you a lot of pictures of these hotels and resorts, as well as a lot of the buildings and the houses that were here prior to the 1935 hurricane. So I'm really looking forward to that. Please check our website at keysdiscovery.com under events. You must register for the event. It's free for members. It's $5 for non-members. Great time to become a member and get access to all of our great programming. We have some amazing programs that will be coming up in the next several months. Just at that time of year again, we're just going to start our lecture series is coming up. So we'll have a lot of lectures and programming. Next Wednesday, so tomorrow night we're doing community views. I'll be doing a great presentation on early Upper Matecumbe Key. Excuse me. And then next Wednesday night, we will be doing another one of our great lectures. I'll be talking about the amazing, mythical, legendary pirate Black Caesar. I've been looking forward to doing this talk for a long time. And I will be talking about not one, not two, not three, but 4 Black Caesars here that can be associated with the name, 3 of which we're here in the Florida Keys up at Elliott Key. So hope you guys have a great weekend. Be sure and check us out. Check out our Facebook page for a link to sign up for the webinar, or go to our website, keysdiscovery.com, and you can sign up there. Looking forward to the great presentation tomorrow night and a great lecture on Black Caesar the following Wednesday. And then we're going to take a break a little bit for me. And I'm looking forward to that as well. And so thanks for tuning in, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow night, and you guys have a great week. Thanks so much.